All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we will cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network and on our hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM in St. Catharines, Ontario. And they stream us around the world on classic1220.ca. Wow, a lot of things happening these days with the new administration. President Trump says that he's going to release documents pertaining to the JFK assassination, Martin Luther King assassination, and the assassination of Bobby Kennedy. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the days and months ahead. My guest this hour, X Zone Nation, is John Milor, and he is an author of several books and a radio talk show host for numerous programs. And he's a good friend here in the X Zone. His interest in understanding paranormal phenomena began at the age of 5 after having his great-grandmother's tale of seeing a UFO shortly following the turn of the century. Now, this story, as well as numerous otherworldly encounters of his own, fueled his quest for the unknown when he reached the age of 21 and was visited by none other than Jesus Christ in a vision. And since that time, John has become a born-again Christian, yet continues to investigate paranormal phenomenon. In most respects, he is an outsider, considered too Christian for New Agers and too occultish for Christians. Those who read his books with an open mind, however, may discover him simply to be a Bible-believing intellectual who constantly questions everything he sees, hears, feels, and believes. John has earned 2 associate degrees, a bachelor in business, and is currently pursuing a master's in professional screenwriting. He works full-time as a master sergeant in the Air National Guard. All are invited to visit his websites and his books at www.aliensinthebible.com and aliensandtheantichrist.com. Joining me now for this first hour of tonight's show is my friend, John Milor. And John, welcome back to the X Zone.
Hello, can you hear me? My microphone has a little slash on it.
No, you're here. You're sounding good.
Okay, yeah. My bio's slightly outdated. I have 2 master degrees now.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I got the screenwriting one, which was actually harder than the cybersecurity one, believe it or not, because I already knew cybersecurity when I got that degree. But yeah, I finished that, and really happy to be on your show, and I thank you very much for having me on again.
John, with the new administration in the United States with President Trump, he's releasing information pertaining to the assassination of John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, and Martin Luther King. Has anybody, or has he, to the best of your knowledge, has he said anything about releasing information about the UFO phenomenon?
I've heard very little of that. I did hear that he was looking into it in terms of trying to get an answer about the flurry of UAPs, the new term, that we had a couple months ago, and then they just suddenly disappeared from the media. He was looking into it. His belief was that they're ours. That is an opinion I have on that, is that I think that some of them are ours. They're probably using reverse engineered technology. And some of the ones that I've seen video of were like, that's ours. Well, then we already solved free energy. So that raises some complications in terms of global economy and a lot of Trump's policies. And yeah, I'm wondering if we're even ready for that kind of technology. So yeah, it opens a can of worms, that's for sure.
It certainly does, and especially with the flurry of drone sightings over New Jersey lately, and that now these UFOs that seem to be pulsating or pulsars or what would you call them? Energy, plasma.
Yes, they exhibit all kinds of capabilities that we don't claim to have, at least in the public. We're not letting the public know that we have, but I mean, clearly when you can do 700 Gs, even a non-humanoid inside of that thing, that kind of pressure, there's no known there's no known manufacturing technique that can build something to withstand that kind of pressure. Now it fall apart.
Now, let me ask you something, as having been in the Air National Guard for so many years, John. If this is a plasma technology, in your opinion, would it show up on radar?
I think we cracked the radar issue a while back. So even the stealth bomber was difficult to pick up on radar, and our F-22s as well. The design of it somehow reflects radar, and then they also have a radar-resistant paint. Don't ask me how it works. But radar is kind of even on the low-tech spectrum. These things the things they're tracking can travel 6 times faster than a nuclear sub underwater in the ocean, come out of the ocean and shoot off into the outer space at speeds that we can't even track. The quickest, they get 700 times our G-force, and thousands of miles an hour just blast off in outer space. We're not known to have anything like that. These things can do circles around F-22s, so it makes you wonder, why are we still building F-22s if we got that kind of technology?
And it also begs to ask the question, why are we using solid rocket propellants if we have this technology?
Right. And free energy. If they're exhibiting control over gravity like this, they would, I'm thinking that these are ET, because they're acting like they have complete mastery over gravity and inertia and the laws of physics to be able to do these things, which means they could create a wormhole. And if they can generate that kind of energy, that's like more power than the United States in a vehicle the size of a bus, a school bus. That's an incredible amount of energy. So why are we using that energy to power everything rather than, playing this game with windmills and solar panels and stuff? And it just really opens up a can of worms in terms of the questions that it presents.
Let me ask you a question about your expertise as a cybersecurity expert. Are we getting any advanced knowledge on when it comes to cybersecurity and blocking out the possible threats from external sources in China, the Russia, and other countries that are not are not friendly towards the United States and Canada?
Yeah. Well, the reason why Trump immediately addressed AI in his one of his more recent speeches is because quantum computing with AI can crack anything. And we need to be on the forefront of that. The only thing that can combat it is another quantum AI. And it may be in a situation, we may find ourselves quickly in a situation where there's nothing private, and it will be a lot harder to block something from coming in rather than to crack something. So we'll be able to access all of their stuff, and they'll be able to access all of our stuff, and there's not a lot we can do about it.
Something that's always puzzled me, John, is that if Russia and China have the capability, and we know that they do, to hack into U.S. government and other government data banks, why they haven't broken in and secured the information that proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that UFOs are in fact here. And all they need to do is put it out there and say, look, your government's lied to you for all these years. They've had the information. Yes, you're right. UAPs are here. How come why do you think that hasn't been done yet?
First of all, that's two issues. Honestly, I think China probably already is, and very much in our networks, and they could flip a switch and turn everything off if they wanted to. But I think the global economy is what's protecting us, because it would hurt them as much, if not more, than it would hurt us if they did that. They own so much of what we have, China, speaking of China,
right?
That they don't want to cripple themselves. You're not going to, shoot your foot to spite your hand.
Sure.
So I think that's one of the dynamics that's at play. Russia would have more of an ability to do that, but, they may be looking at chain reaction effects on the economy. They don't want a global economy crash. That would eventually come back around and affect them. It's almost as bad as nuclear war, the effects economically speaking. So I think that's kind of got the big players at the table somewhat in check in this strategy of cat and mouse that we play in cyber realm, where everybody can probably get into each other's stuff, but they're hesitant to create international incidents.
It almost sounds as if, John, that the cyber aspect of global positioning and global war is more dangerous than the nuclear button.
In a way, and it's a more attractive option, honestly, if you can cut off the power or hit with an EM pulse and wipe out the power grid. And it's a lot easier, actually, than detonating a nuclear bomb above us in the outer atmosphere. They have EM pulse technology now. But, that means that they could destroy our infrastructure, and then basically we would be like rats in a cage in places like L.A., high dense population with gangs and stuff run amok.
Hey, John, I hate to do this, but I've got to take my break. Please stand by. Yeah. X-Zone Nation, my guest is a good friend of the X-Zone, John Milor, and his website's aliensinthebible.com and aliensandtheantichrist.com. We'll be back on the other side of this break. This is the X-Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ, streaming at classic1220.ca. Welcome back to the X-Zone. I'm Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast centers here in studio on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220. Streaming us at classic1220.ca. John Milor is our special guest. His websites are aliensinthebible.com and aliensandtheantichrist.com. John, have you yourself seen a UFO? Or a UAP?
I've seen a shooting star before that zigzagged, so that might have been a UFO. And I communicated with a ball of light in the jungle of Panama. I believe I've talked about that on your show in the past.
Yeah, and if you could repeat that story for the many listeners that we have on our networks now that weren't here the last time you were with us. So that's a wonderful story, and if you could retell it, that would be super.
Oh yeah. It was 1990. Actually, it was 89 when I was there, because it hadn't turned 1990 yet. It turned 1990 while I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And we deployed, and we were at Fort Sherman. This was before we went into our convoy phase. And they weren't sure if the Panamanian Defense Forces were making a move on Fort Sherman or not, or that they were planning on it. So the back end of that base, all the way around the perimeter of the back, there was no fence or anything. It was jungle. And they didn't need a fence, and that's why they didn't put one, because that jungle was much more than any fence could ever provide. They had deadly snakes in there, pit vipers, spitting cobras, the bugs, even the plants were inhospitable. Some of them you would touch them and your skin would burn. Good grief. We tried to do land navigation, and it was ridiculous. You can't go very far. But we had to actually spend the night in the jungle for a couple of weeks. And while we were out in the jungle, there was a trail that kind of starts as a road and then fizzles into a trail and then somewhat disappears when you go far enough back in there. And so me and my team leader were in one position, and there were several positions that we had, 2-man positions scattered throughout the jungle, in case the Panamanian Defense Force decided to come across the Caribbean Sea, scale a cliff, and then go through a couple miles of jungle to get to us. Very unlikely. But while we were out there, I saw this glowing ball of light floating toward my position, and it was around midnight. I was the only one up. It would flash on intermittently. About every 30 seconds it would flash on. So I didn't notice it right away until it was maybe 1,000 yards away, something like that. And I noticed this flashing, and because I was filtering it out before, thinking it might have been sheet lightning from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And when it finally caught my eye that this was down underneath the canopy in the jungle, and I was looking in that direction, wondering what was creating the light, and I actually saw it. It was this ball of light, and it was coming straight for my position. It flashed on about every 30 seconds and made a beeline for us. And I'm trying to figure out what it is. It was about the size of a soccer ball. And when it got close enough, maybe 30 feet away, I was able to see that with night vision goggles, it was not there. You couldn't see it, couldn't hear it. It basically was not there. But then when it flashed on, it was incredibly bright, like a camera flash the size of a soccer ball. Before it got to us, which was 30 feet away, that's where I really got a good look at it. I woke up my team leader, and this guy was the number one antagonist of my life at that time. They used to make fun of me a lot, tease me a lot, because I had all these paranormal books in the bedroom, in my dorm, and I played Dungeons and Dragons, and I was an oddball for Army infantry. Anyway, he used to pick on me a lot, my team leader, and they used to make fun of me, and I had a nickname about, my paranormal proclivities. And but I got to wake him up and tell him that there was this flashing ball of light and that it was some kind of life form. And it was not in any biology textbook that he would ever be able to tell me about. And he thought I was messing with him, and, because it's in the jungle and creepy and everything. And he got a little freaked out at first, but then he started cussing me out, thinking I was messing with him until the ball of light flashed. And I told him, see, I told you, just keep your eyes over there and it'll flash again in another 20 seconds or so. And then he got a good look at it. And then I just started saying, it's not ball lightning because of X, Y, Z.
Mm-hmm.
It's not swamp gas because, I knew all of this stuff of what it could be. Because I studied things like this. And so after I give that info, I tell him I'm going to go talk to it. And he about flipped and he starts cussing me out. And I'm like, I did disobey a direct order. I went to take off my weapon and he told me not to. And I'm like, this thing, it could have killed me if it wanted to. Look at it. It's pure electricity. I'm taking off my weapon. I don't want to present hey, we come in peace. By the way, ignore my M60 with 750 rounds of, that doesn't work.
No.
So I took my M60 off and I'm like, and another reason it's not ball lightning is my M60. It's metal, right? If that thing were ball lightning, it would at least probably be attracted to this weapon and it would have killed me already. Or it would have hit the whip antenna of the radio, because that's nothing short of a lightning rod and a backpack full of lithium batteries. And so it wasn't acting like ball lightning. And,
Mm-hmm.
he's trying to give me all these, maybe it's a laser from the aircraft carrier. And I'm like, no, laser requires straight line of sight. This is down in the jungle under the trees. There's no way it's a laser. And it's not any kind of technology we had back then.
John, let me. I hate to interrupt you at this point, but tell me, what was when this ball of light was emitting the brightness? Was it creating shadows?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Eh?
I mean, it was bright.
Wow.
Like I saw it at least 1,000 yards away. It was like daylight when it flashed.
Right.
It was very bright. When I introduced myself to it, I was like, okay, I'm going to put on my James T. Kirk hat. This is first contact. I'm going to introduce myself to this thing.
Right.
And I said, I come in peace, and, I want to understand you. I mean you no harm. We're here. There's turmoil in this country. We're here to try to establish a peace, and, but that has nothing to do with you. I respect you. This is probably your home or whatever. And we're out here because, we're just doing what we have to do. But I just want to be on good terms with you. And if you would be willing to reveal yourself, I would greatly appreciate it. And I stood there and it stopped flashing in its intermittent 30-second, like it was thinking about what I just said.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had this feeling come over me, and it was the feeling of being watched, like multiplied by 1,000. And it was so strong that I knew exactly where this thing was. I could actually feel its presence. So it was a kind of communication that it established with me telepathically, letting me know where it was. And I could feel it moving around, and I could point to it exactly where it was at. And I'm telling my team leader, I feel it moving. And I felt it fly right toward me, and it kind of freaked me out because this thing was really intimidating. It was powerful, whatever it was. And I felt it fly right over my head. It dipped a little bit to get close to me. I felt it like practically graze my hair, but it flew right over the top of my head, and I did a 180. I spun around and I lifted the night vision goggles, and I said, next time this thing flashes, it's going to flash right there. And where I pointed, it flashed exactly when I said the word there. So it flashed on cue. So that was some kind of rudimentary communication that it relayed to me. It let me know that it was alive, it was sentient. Mm-hmm. It allowed me to feel its presence and its movement. And so that wasn't a normal language. Certainly didn't do anything like turn into a human and, nothing outlandish like that. But what it did to me was demonstrated to me that it was sentient and that it let me know that, if anything, it was curious about me and that it was alive and, so it responded to me. And I was really ecstatic. My team leader was catatonic at that point. And it proceeded to do this perimeter sweep. It went around our entire perimeter, flashing as it went, to get a good look from a whole 360-degree view. And then it went down into the jungle and paid a visit to 2 other positions in the jungle. And the next day, nobody was saying anything. So I figured, all right, I'm going to open this can of worms. And I said, all right, did you see the thing last night? Corporal Stinger here, he saw it with me. He can't deny it. I know he likes to make fun of me about believing things that aren't supposed to be real, like ghosts and whatnot, but we saw something, a flashing ball of light, and I communicated with it. And did you see it? One guy is like, oh, I think I saw a firefly. And I'm like, come on. It was the size of a soccer ball. We'd all been seeing fireflies since day one out there. They're everywhere. This was not a firefly. And the other guy said, I think I saw something. But they would not elaborate or fess up to anything beyond that. And then my corporal, the guy that was with me, said, oh, I know exactly what it was. And then everybody was all silent and looking at him like, what? And he said, Milor summoned it. And then they started laughing and started cracking jokes about me being a wizard and where's my
for goodness sake,
spell book and all this stupid stuff. And it turned into a roast session. And I'm like, good grief. What's harder to believe? What we just saw or your response to it? But yeah, it, so that experience to me really invigorated my paranormal quests back then, and got to where all right, I've read about everything you can read about on this paranormal stuff. Now I have to do things like ghost hunting and.
All right, John, stand by, my friend. Fascinating story. We'll be back on the other side of this break with our special guest, John Milor. This is the X Zone. You're listening to us on the X Zone Broadcast Network and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, streaming on classic1220.ca. We'll be back.
I'm not a Starfleet commander or TJ Hooker. I don't live on Starship NCC-170 or own a phaser. I don't know anyone named Bones, Sulu, or Spock. And no, I've never had green alien sex. But I'm sure it'd be quite an evening. I speak English. And French. Not Klingon. I drink Labatt's, not Romulan ale. And when someone says to me, live long and prosper, I seriously mean it when I say get a life. My doctor's name is not McCoy, it's Ginsburg. And tribbles were puppets, not real animals. Puppets! And when I speak, I never ever talk like every word is its own sentence. But I was raised in Montreal. And yes, I've gone where no man has gone before, but
And there we go, William Shatner proclaiming his Canadianism right here on the X Zone. Wow, that brings back a lot of memories, that clip. Exonation, our guest this hour is John Milor. And first of all, John, thanks very much for being with us. Always a great pleasure having you here on the show. But just getting back to your story about what happened in Panama, if you don't mind just for a second or two. Why, in your opinion, didn't the members of your team back you up with what they saw?
They saw that it wasn't a fight that they wanted to get into,
Right.
a dog fight. Plus, I think there was a mentality issue on it too. They might have been curious, but there's like 4 authorized conversations in the Army infantry. Women, cars, beer, football. And if you want to talk about something outside of that, then you're kind of questionable. If you want to talk about aliens or ghosts or anything paranormal, well, then you're just weird.
But here you had this experience with this light that posed a security threat. Wouldn't that be something that they'd want to talk about?
You would think.
Yeah.
You would think. And you hear about these stories about Pentagon officials getting read into the file, about ETs and stuff, and some of them are just flipping out. And they're like, it's all demons, it's all demons. They don't know how to interpret it, and that's a big part of the reason why I felt the need to draft a new edition of my research, Christian ufology, a few years ago when that first released in 2020 from the Navy, because that's, I don't know, 50 years, 60 plus years of denial.
Yeah.
And then 100% about face. And now you have people, multi-vector witnesses where, okay, we tracked it on sonar, radar, and people on the ship outside that saw it, and people in the aircraft that saw it. And all of this testimony is combined into a single report talking about some crazy stuff around the SS Nimitz. And that is ironclad, irrefutable evidence. Because, you could explain each item individually, like, the sonar system getting hacked and then putting those things in there, right?
Definitely.
But, you had all of it going on all at the same time. That would be too much of a feat to accomplish. What they saw and experienced was real. And that information is coming out now. Now they're questioning these whistleblowers and calling them into,
Congressional hearings.
The credibility, calling out their credibility, but it's real. And Jesus even talked about it. He said, as the days of Noah were, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. And he predicted basically open contact, which would require public disclosure. The days of Noah, if you read about it in Genesis 6, the Watchers, the sons of God, these were angels, and they descended on Mount Hermon. They interfaced with our society and actually interbred with humans. And we had hybrids, and that's all in the Bible. And out of all of history, Jesus said we're returning to that.
Now we're talking about the Nephilim here, right?
Yeah. And so all of that hasn't happened yet, but Jesus said that that's what the world is going to be like when he comes back. So I predict in my book, from my research, that that's where this is all going. We're going to have open disclosure, and we're going to discover that they are from other worlds. And what did they do back then? It was terrible. They gave us all this information and technology, and society went downhill with a very rapid descent until it got so bad God had to wipe out the planet, giving us things that we're not supposed to have before we're ready to have them. That's one of the things that Satan likes to do, and they're probably going to do it again. And that's why I see all this technology and everybody's in wonder about it, and what we could do with free energy, what we could do with all these things. And AI, I think, is another thing that probably originated from them. Computer technology did. Downed aircraft, that's my personal opinion. Downed spacecraft, probably from Roswell, or maybe before that even. But we've been reverse engineering their stuff for quite some time. And, now we're going to be seeing the fulfillment of these things that the Bible told us about thousands of years ago.
Something that maybe you can help me understand, John, is that whoever or whatever these craft are, in my opinion, they must be more highly advanced than we could ever imagine. And if they are, which I'm not saying they're not, please believe me when I say that, I can't understand why they want to make sure that we see them. Why we are tracking them on radar, why we are tracking them on sonar, why we are tracking them through other satellite systems that the military have. It seems like they're saying, hey, we're making it so obvious that we're here that you cannot deny it anymore. And it seems that they are pushing disclosure.
Yeah, and I mentioned that in my book. I do believe that, according to the Bible, Daniel chapter 8 talks about battles that are going to be happening in the end times, and that the Antichrist is actually going to be fighting against the hosts of heaven. This is a reference to otherworldly alliances. And we already have that suspicion. There's like lots of books on it about how the Nazis had otherworldly alliances with the tall whites, about Russia has the Kecksburg incident, I believe they call it. That's their version of Roswell. And we even had we supposedly even had an ET helping our CIA, and it was an operative, this female blonde lady that age. Maybe she's still there. But we've had these connections a long time. So there's always been this suspicion that we do already have alliances with these otherworldly forces. But in terms of a formal government alliance where the heads of the government actually know about it, that's questionable. I don't think Trump knows about it yet. That's why this is an interesting time that we're seeing, because he's going to be cleaning house in the CIA, and he might, if anybody can get to the bottom of this. Carter tried, Clinton tried, they both failed. Our industrial information complex, I call it, or intelligence complex, has stonewalled president after president, and even ruined a couple of presidents. I think they destroyed Nixon's career. I think they assassinated Kennedy. I think they tried to assassinate Trump. So things are different. So we might see some actual, I think it seems like all these prophecies are coming together. Artificial intelligence, that's a prophecy. That's Revelation 13. The image of the beast is an AI entity. So I see all of these prophecies that are just starting to align on a single point in our very near future.
So in your opinion, John, in your opinion, as a person who's done so much research into the alien biblical connection, do you believe that we are in the end times as talked about in the book of Revelation?
I do. And book of Revelation actually is a series of short stories that are repeated. And it's kind of like repeating the same story from different angles. Because you'll see Judgment Day mentioned in there a couple of times, and it's like you can't have multiple Judgment Days. So it's a narrative that's non-linear. And you're seeing the same story told from different angles, like, okay, at the same time, this is going on over here. You can even line up certain events, like the 3.5-year period. And it tells you about this artificial intelligence. And you could take that and compare it with the book of Daniel, too, because John went off of a lot of what Daniel wrote in the Old Testament, and these otherworldly alliances and the things that we're going to see unfolding, and we're seeing some of that happening right now. Even, big countries possibly combining, which makes me wonder, what would be your take on Canada becoming the 51st state of the United States?
No, thank you. I'm a Canadian, true and true. That would just be like me asking you, John, and you and I are friends. How about the United States becoming the 11th or 12th province of Canada?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, what I would have to say is who's got the better constitution? Let's, if we're going to combine.
Exactly. There's a lot to look at it. And I think that, with all due respect to President Trump, I think that he's just trying to show that he's in power now. And with these tariffs and what else he is proposing, not only on Canada, but other countries around the world, pulling out of the World Health Organization, pulling out of the Paris Accord. Today, talking about dismantling FEMA, he's just making the point that he's the new boy in town and he's not going to take anybody's crap.
Yeah, and it's kind of about time.
Hey, John, I hate to do this to you again, buddy, but we've got to take our final break for this hour. And, John, it's always great having you here on the show. Thank you very much for taking time.
All right, thank you.
Hey, stand by, my friend. Exonation will be back with this final segment of this hour show, but this is hour number 1. We still have another hour to go here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, Canada, and of course on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM, streaming us on classic1220.ca. Like William Shatner, I am a Canadian. My name is Rob McConnell, and proud to be it. Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us on the X Zone at xzbn.net and live and around the world on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ, here in St. Catharines as well. Streaming us around the world on classic1220.ca. John Milor is our special guest, and first of all, John, thanks very much for coming on the show, and thank you for your service over the years, defending freedom and democracy as a member of the military.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about the other aspects of the paranormal that you were so interested in, and the experience that you had when you met Jesus himself. What was that like, John? What was that like?
That was one of the darkest times of my life, though I was somewhat oblivious to my darkness. I was when I got out of the Army, I didn't have Big Brother controls monitoring everything I did anymore, and I was free to my own proclivities, and I kind of just went and turned into an absolute party animal. Still an introvert, but like I would party animal by myself. Working on becoming an alcoholic, among other things. And it was during that time, and at the same time, monkeying around in all this paranormal stuff. I tried, messing with channeling and astral projection and playing with Ouija boards and probably opening up all these portals in my home like Swiss cheese. And it was during that time that I had a dream one night that Jesus came to me in the dream. I didn't know that it was him at the time. It was I was in some drug compound in the dream, and this Black Hawk helicopter came down. So now I like to say Jesus came to me in a helicopter, which he did. It's a really odd thing to say because it just doesn't sound like something Jesus would do. But for those who know Jesus, they would say probably that it sounds exactly like something he would do.
That's right.
He finds a medium that you're familiar with, that you can relate to, and that's what he did with me. And I jumped into the helicopter. I mean, the door opened, and I heard a voice say, "Get in," and I didn't question. I just jumped in because where I was at was bad. There were all these people standing around with machine guns and stuff, and it was this drug compound, and I was like, I'm going to end up dead if I don't get out of here, and I couldn't find a way out. And he came, landed, I jumped in, and that helicopter took me up, and then he dive bombed toward this mountain, and I was screaming. And so I had been in many helicopter rides in the Army, and I had been in some terrifying ones. It's very sickening when a helicopter decides to just fall out of the sky and you come up out of your seat. And in the Army, when we had our backpacks, we wouldn't put seatbelts on. They told us not to. And the door, they made leave the door open. So you're having to grip onto your seat to not fall out. And then they do this map of the Earth routine where they're swerving left and right, and they go so vertical. Well, they don't go completely upside down. They go sideways, right?
Right.
And it's like at a 45-degree angle. You're looking to your left and you're seeing the ground, right? But you're not falling out because you're glued to the seat because you got several G's pulling you down into the seat. So you don't fall out. And that's how you fly in these helicopter rides that will make you puke. I've seen people puke, and then they fall when they're falling, and the puke kind of just floats in the air and spreads the wealth, and it.
Oh, jeez.
Pleasant. So anyways, this was this kind of a helicopter ride, and suddenly I thought we were going to explode into the side of a mountain, and instead there was a tunnel, and he went into the tunnel. And if you know about helicopters, you know that you don't fly a helicopter in tunnels.
True.
Maybe Tom Cruise did in a movie, but that's Hollywood.
Yes.
He flew through this tunnel and out the other side, and there was some power lines right when he came out. And I had a personal experience with power lines in the Army. When we were doing convoys in Panama, a helicopter got caught in some power lines, and they went down and crushed everybody, killed everyone. At least one person tried to jump out, which they tell you not to try to jump out of a helicopter if it's going down, because you'll most likely get chopped by the blades, and that's what happened to that guy. Scattered him everywhere, and we had to pick his parts up. So having that experience in the Army, here I am in this dream, and there's power lines, and I'm like, here it is, I'm dead. This pilot did a flip around these power lines. Prove a point, I guess. I don't know. I was screaming the whole time. And then he shot straight up and then finally leveled off and calmed down. And everything was peaceful. All of this happened in twilight. And now the sun finally came up over the horizon, and it was this endless field of golden wheat with this amber light entering into the helicopter. And it just seemed so peaceful, like unusual peace. And I'm like, finally, what's going on? Why did this pilot feel the need to, scare me to death? And I'm like wondering, who's this pilot anyway? And I leaned forward and I looked, and the seat was indented and the controls were moving around, but the pilot was invisible. So he landed me back in the same place I was before, but when I got out, all the people were dead. There was blood, guts, dead bodies, expended cartridges of ammo and everything. And he flew off, and the gate to this compound was open, so I walked out. And as I was walking out of the compound, I felt this weight come off of my shoulders. And then I woke up. And I was there in my bed and woke up in the bed feeling just this unusual level of peace and lightness about me. And I'm like, okay, that was something. What was that? And started recalling the dream, and then I finally got to the part about the invisible pilot. And I asked this question to myself, just talking to myself, who was that pilot? I wasn't expecting an answer, but I actually got an answer, an audible answer in my ear. Like his whiskers were brushing against my eardrum. Said, Jesus. Very resolute and affirmative and authoritative, and it just, here's your answer. And I was utterly shocked. And with that one word, his name, he imparted his love and his presence and a level of knowledge about who he is that no amount of sentences or altar calls or sermons could have ever come anywhere near it. You read in the book of Job all of these things that happened to this man, and in the end, he finally sees God when he stops blabbing and says, I repent in dust and ashes. And it makes you wonder, like, okay, why the sudden change of heart? And I know exactly why. Because he saw God when he realized who he is. And just by seeing him, it cut through all of the confusion and it answered every question. And it wasn't an intimidating thing for God. It wasn't, you're right, I am wrong, I'm putting you in your place kind of thing. No, it was like, here I am. He revealed himself to him and it answered all of his questions. God is perfectly just and he is perfection. And we can't really grasp that on an intellectual level. And that's what I received in that one name, just hearing his name. And all these chills shot down. I felt the physical manifestation of his presence and his glory was there. And I fell out of my bed. And before I knew it, I'm like, what do you want me to do, God? I have to do something for you. I prayed before, but it was always I'm asking him for things. And this was the first time in my life I remember asking him, what do you want me to do for you? And all these things just started swarming through my head, like, well, you might want to consider reading the Bible, maybe changing your behavior on a few things. So next thing I know, I'm flushing things down the toilet and pouring out all this alcohol and tearing posters off my walls. And, I just purged my room and calling friends and stuff. And they thought I all lost my mind. And I started reading the Bible. And then right away, Genesis chapter 6 isn't very far in the Bible, like page 2. I'm reading about these Nephilim. And I'm like, I know what this is. Because I was encyclopedic about the paranormal, I was really into that stuff. And here I'm reading about angels mating with humans. And I'm, wait a second. I didn't think angels could do that, but so they're biological entities. And I'm just crossing all these dots and or crossing
Right.
T's and dotting I's and, taking notes in my Bible. And that's where that all started.
John, as always, whenever you're with us, time flies. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, John. And tell our listeners where they can find your books and your website.
Okay, so one of my later books is Christian Ufology on christianufology.net and thestrongdelusion.net. That's another book that I have out there. I got all my books on my author website, which is johnmilor.com. But these other websites that I'm telling you, Aliens in the Bible, Aliens in the Antichrist, thestrongdelusion.net, christianufology.net, those go to my author website. So you see all my books there. And if anybody sees anything that they're interested in, but they're not so much interested that they're willing to pay for it, but they're curious and they want to know, feel free to email me. My email's on my website, but it's also jmilor, MILOR, JMILOR @yahoo.com. and ask me for a PDF, I only ask that you email me because I want to touch bases with people and talk to them. And if they have any questions, I'm here. I will answer questions. I always answer my emails.
John,
every single one.
John, thank you ever so much for coming on the show. Please don't be a stranger. I always look forward to talking to you. And thank you for all you do behind the scenes in helping so many people.
All right. Thank you very much. And blessings to you, my friend.
Blessings to you too, my friend, in regards to your family. And have a great New Year, John.
All right. You too.
John Milor has been my guest this hour, X-Zone Nation. And I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ. And they stream us around the world on classic1220.ca. I'm Rob McConnell. I'll be back on the other side at the top of the hour. Don't go away for hour 2.